Every time you get defensive, the conversation with your husband either goes nowhere or turns into another argument. And the more defensive you get, the harder it is for either of you to feel heard or understood. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through how to stop this reaction so you can finally work through difficult conversations before they turn into an argument that leaves you both feeling hurt, misunderstood, and alone. One of the biggest misconceptions I see is that a lot of people believe defensiveness is part of their personality, but it's not. Defensiveness is usually a protective response. And once you understand what's underneath it, you have far more control than you probably realize. So first, you need to understand what's underneath your defensiveness. Most women think they're just reacting to what their partner is telling them. But a lot of times, they're actually reacting to what those words mean or imply about their personality and who they are as a person. Let me give you an example. Maybe your husband says, "I don't feel like we've been spending much time together lately." What you may hear is, "Great. I'm failing as a wife." One more thing he's unhappy about. Or one more thing I need to be doing more of. Or he says, "I wish you'd listen to me more." Or sometimes your reactions make me feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you. And in that moment, your brain hears, "There's something wrong with me. He doesn't like associating with me. He doesn't like being around me." Now, that's where you might get stuck. He's actually saying something else, but you're taking it very personally. He's trying to communicate something about his needs, but for you, this lands as, "I'm deficient. I'm not doing enough. There's something wrong with me." So there's a misunderstanding and a mismatch here in what's being communicated and what's being received by you. And the reason this happens is because all of us carry some emotional wounds from our past. The wound of "I'm not enough," the wound of "I'm failing," or that there's something wrong and defective about me. When these wounds get activated, your nervous system instantly goes into protection mode. That's when you start interrupting him while he's talking. That's when you go into over-explaining yourself and just talking and talking. And that's when you start defending yourself or defending your intentions. So he's saying something like, "Okay, we're not spending as much time." Your defensive response might be, "Oh yeah, we're not spending enough time. So again, there's something wrong with what I'm doing. How about that time when I asked you to do this and you didn't do it? How come I don't bring these things up?" That's a defensive response. Or he says something like, "I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you," and you say something like, "Really? You're saying you're afraid of me and scared of me? Like, seriously, I'm hurt by you. I'm upset by what you do. I actually feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Like, how dare you say that? You're the one feeling that way." So you see how this is a very defensive response versus you saying, "Oh, I didn't know that's how you felt. Tell me more about that. What did I do? What situation were we in where I made you feel like you can't talk to me or you have to be tense around me?" Get curious. But if your response is not a curious response, then it's a more defensive response. And now in times when you get defensive, before you know it, you find yourself arguing about whether you're a bad person or a good person, instead of just attending to his feeling and his concern. Now, I know I'm talking about him in this situation, but this can happen to both of you. Both of you can get defensive in a conversation. Whenever our partner brings something up, we have a choice. We either can get defensive and start protecting ourselves because we want to feel like we're a good person, or we can get curious and listen to them and validate their feelings and try to understand them. So the first step you need to take to address this defensiveness is recognition. Recognizing that your feeling of defensiveness is not happening just because he's telling you something, and that there might actually be a wound inside that whenever someone gives you a feedback, you take it as, "I'm a bad person." So there's a sense of shame that you carry whenever someone gives you a feedback. That sense of shame and feeling small gets activated. Now, tell me in the comments if you get offended or you take things personally when your partner brings something up. Just say yes in the comment below. It makes all of us feel less alone in this situation. Now, having this awareness alone can change how you respond to your partner's bids for connection or their feelings when they come up. If they feel like you're not defensive and you're actually hearing them, that can be very soothing to their nervous system and can actually bring them closer rather than push them away. And now that you know what's happening for you internally, the next step is to actually catch yourself when you're feeling defensive. So before you let the defensiveness take over the conversation and hijack the conversation, you need to be able to catch it. So notice the early signs that tell you you're becoming defensive. Because defensiveness doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It usually escalates. It starts from the first sign, then the second sign, then third, fourth, fifth, right? You may start with a harmless comment, then you may raise your voice, then you may make certain facial expression, and as your nervous system is getting more activated in that defensiveness, if you can catch it early, the more chance you have to better manage the conversation. So this means before my nervous system gets activated to 100%, I'm gonna catch it when it's at 30%. I'm gonna catch it before it gets to that point, because it's very hard to control it once you're at 100% of nervous system activation. So I want you to take a piece of paper and write down the signs that tell you you're getting defensive. Your body gives you the first clues. Maybe you start raising your voice, maybe you start talking faster, maybe your face just becomes more tense, maybe you immediately want to explain yourself, and in that moment you even find yourself you're not listening to what your partner is saying. And one of the common signs is sometimes I see couples and I'm like, okay, so what was the argument about? And they cannot recall what the argument was about because they were both so defensive and their nervous system was so active that they were not even realizing what they were saying to each other in that moment. So they had no recollection. So maybe that loss of memory is also a sign for you that you were super activated. The other thing might be maybe when you get defensive, you start attacking or you start a lot of you language. You do this, you always say this, you always criticize me, right? So the fact that you cannot contain your nervous system and you're just ready to go and hit back at your partner with criticism and attacks, that could also be a sign. Or you preparing a response before he even finishes his sentence, that's another sign. So once you've written down your specific signs that tell you you're becoming more defensive, instead of reacting out of those emotions, I want you to actually pause. Whenever you see one of these cues coming up, oh, I noticed myself talking faster. Oh, I criticize him just then. You need to catch yourself and you need to stop immediately and take a timeout. Take 30 minutes to calm down your nervous system. You can even say to your partner, you know what, I feel myself getting more defensive. I want us to have a productive conversation. Let me take an hour and come back to you. Or let me take a day and come back to you. We can park this conversation now and come back to it at a time that we're both calmer. And in that time, I want you to kind of consider this. Instead of reacting, ask yourself, what if he's not actually attacking me? What if he's just simply trying to share his feelings with me so that we can actually be closer? And that's where the trick is. There's a huge difference between hearing you're a terrible wife and I'm unhappy with you versus reframing it and hearing I just want to feel loved by you and I don't feel loved right now. I really need that from you. One feels like an attack while the other one is just a bit for connection, someone missing you and want to be closer to you and just wanting you to understand them. Most of the times, even if something feels like a complaint or criticism, there's an unmet need underneath it. But to realize this, you need to be able to slow down your nervous system so you actually understand what's happening in front of your eyes. When you slow yourself down enough to notice the difference, you've already changed the direction of the conversation. Now, if you're realizing that every time your husband brings something up, you immediately feel hurt, criticized, or defensive, and the two of you keep getting stuck in the same argument, then you absolutely need to take my Conflict to Reconnection mini course. Because if you don't change this pattern, you'll keep having the same arguments, feel more misunderstood, and slowly become more disconnected from each other. After taking the course, you'll know exactly what to do when conversations go off track so you can stay calmer, express yourself in a way that your husband actually hears you, stop the same arguments from repeating, and have conversations where both of you feel understood and closer. You can take the course at parisacounseling.com/relationship course or take it from the link right in the description below the video. But stay with me because in the next step, I'm going to tell you exactly how you can stop taking everything personally. While catching defensiveness is important, if you don't change how you interpret what your husband is telling you, you'll keep ending up in the same cycle. So I want you to reframe what you're hearing. Sometimes your husband may say things imperfectly. He may sound critical or may use a lot of you statements. You do this, you did that, you hurt me, you make me feel like I'm walking on eggshells. He may sound frustrated. He may not say things as gently as you would like. We're all humans, and when we get worked up, we may not have the right words to express ourselves. So give him the benefit of the doubt. And instead of focusing on his wording, ask yourself, what need is he trying to communicate here? For example, instead of hearing "you never spend time with me," try translating it to "he's feeling disconnected and he just needs more time with me. He wants to be closer." Instead of hearing "you don't listen," translate it to "he wants to be understood by me." Now, this doesn't mean you excuse hurtful communication. It means you stop taking things personally and making it about you. Because underneath what he's expressing, there's just an unmet emotional need. And it may not actually be about you. It's more about them. So would it be okay to not take it personally and just reframing it as they have an emotional need that maybe they're not expressing in the best way, and it's got nothing to do with me? And when you can actually understand that need and respond to that need instead of getting defensive, he feels understood and soothed, and the conversation becomes just less tense and combative. Now, even if you know these things, it's not always possible to stop defensiveness in its tracks. That's because when we get worked up and mad, it's so hard to stay calm and regulated during an argument. If you want to find out how you can stay calm in a conversation in order to prevent arguments from escalating and driving a wedge between you and your partner, this is exactly what I'll walk you through in the video on your screen right now.